Transcend legendary characters as a free-to-play player? Are you insane? That's what you may ask me. But yeah, my friends, this is actually going to be really important at a certain period of the game and for free-to-play players as well. Especially for free-to-play players, it's going to be really important to prioritize everything correctly, because we're at a certain point limited in terms of resources, and to progress with certain raids or chapters in the story mode, we need to have dupes on certain characters. So welcome to the new video about Seven Knights Rebirth. Let's speak about it. First of all, we're going to start about the most important aspects about this game and characters. Obviously, we have different types of activities, we have different types of teams in this game, and that's pretty much straightforward. There are no questions about it. We might actually work on different teams and progress with the story mode with two at least teams. I would say that you should prioritize kinda physical team and magical team. They're going to be pretty much consistent, and you may use both of them in PvP aspect as well, in Tower of Trials, in Tower of the Infinite Tower. I mean, you will be able to use also both of them. The death team is kinda interesting, but you know, it's not going to be the top priority. It's like an additional aspect, so everyone is going to start the game and they are going to have access to the banner for Theo, and here are quite important moments which we need to mention here. Obviously, we need to have farmers to farm ourselves rubies, to have resources to summon for more characters, and so on and so forth. We are starting with Theo. He is kinda universal character, so you can use him in pretty much all type of content, not only for farming, but for farming he's going to be great. Not the best one, but really great. So in terms of dupes, he's going to be probably one of the most desirable characters to get him to at least T2 at the very beginning, and for a further perspective, bring him to T6, because he's going to have 100% crit rate from his passive, and you may actually focus just purely on crit damage for him, or any other stats which you find kinda important for this character. Another important character which you wanna get for yourself for farming is going to be Klahan. Not gonna lie, as a free-to-play option, he is just a perfect farmer, and when we're talking about the Nightmare for 1-1, he's going to work perfectly with just some good gears, even without upgraded skills, and he even will be able to farm 6-1 in Nightmare with just skills being upgraded and with 0 dupes. So just get him at the very beginning is also going to be a nice thing, and you can work on his dupes just later on, but it's not going to be the top priority. For physical team as well, getting yourself coverage, just at least one copy is going to be enough. It's not the top priority. Yeonhee, when we're talking about her, she is going to be one of the core elements for the mage team, for farming specifically, but you need to bring her to T2 to actually be a sustainable farmer. When we're talking about different types of content, she is actually good there as well, and she fit the mage team composition pretty much decent without any questions at all whatsoever. But yeah, you kind of need to work on her skills as well, and again you need to bring her to T2. Is it going to be the top priority? Well, it depends on what kind of characters you're going to prioritize for yourself. I would say if you get yourself Klahan and Theo, and you were able to work with him up to T2, working on your Yeonhee immediately isn't going to be that important, but later on for the mage team composition to make it work properly, yeah, you kinda need to get her to T2. So these are going to be like first base priorities for farmers, and the base team compositions like physical and magical later on. There are no questions about it. For Vanessa, she's actually a decent one. CC character. For her, if I recall it correctly, some dupes are going to be important. Let me just check it real quick. Yeah, T2 she's going to remove buffs from opponents, but it's not the top priority. She's working great at T0 as a CC character, and she's not, let's say, the best 1 CC character for the mage team. She's decent, she's great, but not the most important there. Merker, he is a great and really important character for the mage team, so I would suggest to get him at least at 1 copy. At T0, this is going to be more than enough. Rin is kinda decent, but she is more for PvP, so nope. Now when we're going to Biscuit as a support unit, and we're starting to move more to raid compositions, she is an important 1 character for all raids, and she might be useful in Tower of Trials, she might be useful in all power-up dungeons. That's why for especially raids it's going to be important to get her as early as possible. At the very beginning T0 is going to be enough, but at T2 she is going to become even better. So on a later perspective, keeping in mind her T2 is going to be nice, and working on this because she is going to reduce all damage received from quintuple target attacks by 20%. This resistance is going to be helpful in later stages for all raid bosses. Now we're going to Lina, and she is a great supporter, great healer, and you might even get her at the very beginning if you're going to spend a little bit, but if not, it's a good way to progress on her as well. And she's going to be one of the top priorities in terms of support units to work in the first place. In terms of dupes, and bringing her to T2 is going to provide a huge improvement with 34% crit damage boost to all allies. This is really a lot, so working on her dupes is going to be one of the top priority of a support units. In general, you can use her for every type of content, and I would prioritize her over Biscuit. So when we're talking again about dupes, it's going to be Teo, it's going to be up to you Yonhee, and it's going to be Lina. Maybe even Lina and Yonhee somewhere later. Now when we're talking about Shane, for example, Espada and Pascal, these are 3 DPS units which you're going to use in raids, and pretty much obvious to, let's say, complete tier 10. It's not important to work on their dupes, you're able to complete it with them being at T0 without any questions. But when we're talking about higher stages like 11, 12, maybe even up to 13, bringing them to T2 is going to help you a lot. When we're talking about Shane, when we're going to her dupes, what we can see here, so basically she's going to grant additional 20% damage boost for each debuff on the target, maximum 4 stacks, and this is going to increase her performance with the dragon without any questions. If you're not working on her, for example, if you're not working on dragon, she's not going to be such a priority to bring her to T2. But for example, when we're talking about Espada and Pascal, they are, because the Ox King is providing the most amount of sets that are really useful for many characters, from Pascal, from Iron the War, a lot of DPS sets which are going to be useful for different characters. There are also for CC characters, for PvP type of content. So when we're talking about Espada, for example, at her T2, we're going to receive 29% magic resistance, always active, and This is a huge aspect, because when we're going, for example, to Ox King and we're going to have a look at him specifically, what kind of damage he is going to deal, this is going to be magic attack, this is going to be magic attack, magic attack, magic attack. Everything is related to magic attack. So with that being said, basically her survivability is going to be increased, means she's going to live longer, she's going to deal more damage, and you will be able to complete higher stages. And when we're going to T6 with her, increase damage to 32%, so the target's max HP, when at base parameter is going to be 26%. So in general, this jump is going to be, you're going to feel it with the Ox King. So yeah, she's like a goal to reach her to T6 to farm stage 15, 14 I believe, and maybe even 13, I'm not sure, maybe 13 is going to be doable without bringing her to T6, but kind of questionable. But when we're talking about Pascal, we're going to his Transcendence, and he's going to provide us at T2 the reduce of cooldown of his skill to 40 seconds instead of 60 seconds. And this is actually a big deal, because you will be able to spam his main DPS skill more often, so he is going to be really way better in comparison to T0, T1 version. For example, for Iron the Warrior, I will say that you are going to feel difference really, and maybe prioritizing him over Spada is going to be more of an important aspect, at least bring him to T2, you know, and after that working on Spada, for example, up to T6 to progress further with the Ox King. For Velika, about her dupes, I would say they're not that matter much. She's more of a support unit for how it calls Infinite Tower and Tower of Trials, with the reduction of cooldowns and providing certain buffs. She's going to be a nice one character for Infinite Tower at 0 dupes. Yushin actually is going to be a better fit for the Magic team as a CC character in comparison to, how's her name? Vanessa. I prefer him more, not gonna lie. He's working better, he has more decent CC skills, and let's say you really are able to feel the difference. And his dupes are not that important, let's say. They're useful, but as a CC character, and with a lot of other characters that you need to prioritize, you will work on him probably later on. Not that important. All the rest characters that you can see here, for example, they're mostly for PvP, except for Taka and Ruri. They're both working in Castle Rush, and it's another topic. If you're focusing on getting a higher score there, obviously dupes for them are going to make a difference, but I would say that they're not going to be really like top priority. Again, all the rest, they're kinda characters for PvP aspect. When we're talking about Chris with his death effects, he actually might be useful for the story mode and for Nightmare to progress further, because when you're going to apply his death effects, he's going to kill opponents and he has revive, so it's going to be, let's say, a viable version to use him in Nightmare story progression, but later on it's not that important at the very beginning. And at T2 he's going to reset skills upon revival, the same as Teo, so he might actually apply with higher chances death stacks. Let's say it's like a last resort when you are kinda almost near to lose the fight, but you have a chance to bring to a successful outcome, so it might be a good option. But again, if there is nothing else for you to do, With that being said, I believe I discussed the most important aspects about dupes for characters that you should prioritize. So I would say once again to sum up, first of all, Theo, and working further on him to bring him to T6. Lahan T0 is going to be great, but ideally to T2 to progress and farm higher stages and more successfully. For Yonhee, again later on, if you're going to build for yourself a mage team, and you should to build yourself a mage team because progressing with a nightmare is going to require you to have two proper teams. And about the mage team, Yonhee is going to be one of the main DPS there, and she's able to deal really decent amount of damage. Other characters to have dupes is going to be Lina as maybe a higher priority than Yonhee, but yeah, again, it's up to RNG moment. After that, I'm going to say that probably 3 or at least 2 DPS units for raids with Espada and Pascal is going to be enough just to bring him to T2. After that, obviously, you want to progress him to, let's say, higher level of Transcendence to, again, nuke with 100% crit rate. This is going to matter a lot. You will be able to work on other stats which are going to be more important to farm higher stages on the Iron War. And Espada for her is going to be important to work up to T6 to farm stage 15, 14 and maybe 13 with the Ox King, because again this increase with 6% is actually going to be really that decent. Shane, it's up to you if you're farming Dragon, but yeah, Biscuit after all as well, up to G2 at least. And after that you will need to have a look what kind of teams you will have, which priorities you will have. I believe this is going to be helpful for you. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment, and see you guys in the next one. Take care.